Ready for another powerhouse discussion?
We are going to be experts by the time we're done.
I know.
I think you're already experts.
Oh, we're getting there, right?
Yeah, I think, can I just say what I was going to say?
Yeah.
I think there was two things that Dr. Ramos said that are really important. That as I was sitting back there, I was like, oh, I'm so glad he said that. And one of them was in regards to not waiting for the DBS, like if you feel you're ready. And I especially like the way he said it because it was so eloquent in regards to talking about the visibility of the STN and things like that. Because that puts some like science and some realistic
Visuals,
evidence behind it. Visuals, that's a great way to say it. Because we have these people that, we recommend it. And I will never, ever, ever push somebody to have surgery, as you know, because you even said I wouldn't tell you.
I for sure.
But there are people that we do recommend it for, and we present it as an option, and they just keep saying, I'm not bad enough yet, I'm not bad enough yet, I'm not bad enough yet. And we've had those people that then become, they finally feel like they're ready, and one of two things happens. Either one, they're no longer a candidate because their window has closed and, maybe they've developed some cognitive problems or other medical problems. The other is they don't do as well that I know they would have done if they would have done it the 7 or 8 years. And there's one person specifically that I'm thinking of, and she did a lot better, but I know she could have done better. And so, earlier. So I was really glad to have those, as you said, visuals put behind it, because I think that was really important. And then the other thing that he said, and this kind of goes back to the expectations, because Brian, you asked the question about how do you temper people's expectations. And again, Dr. Ramos said when he was talking about how he tries so hard to put it in the exact, right place, but then some of it is brain wiring. And I think that was so striking to me, and maybe something that we don't do as good of a job at educating. Like we talk about that, you're likely to do well if you respond well to medication or this. I don't think we talk a lot about that other part of it and what the brain wiring does, because I think sometimes somebody might respond really well to the medication in the levodopa response testing. But you don't know until you start programming, and the adaptive and stuff has given us some information. But you don't know that maybe when I'm doing something on the right side of the body, that your left side of your body is also responding. Like we have those people, and it might be that maybe both sides get benefit, but then maybe also both sides get side effect. And so you're making one side better. And there's where some of that brain wiring comes in that I think makes things a little bit more complicated. And then, as I told you from the very beginning too, the dyskinesia always makes programming, not always, 90% of the time makes programming much more difficult.
Well, welcome, Ellen Walter. Welcome to The Secret Life of Parkinson's, a podcast created by people living with Parkinson's to help break the stigma of a disease no one likes to talk about. Now, here are your hosts, Jessica Krauser and Brian Baker. So we're so excited to have you back.
Thank you.
As well as Dr. Ben Walter. So if you
Hi.
guys didn't know, they're married. But from the Cleveland Clinic, we really appreciate you guys coming down. This is now our third episode on DBS, and I feel like we can even have more. But I think that was so well put and pointed out, because as a patient, you don't think of things like that. I mean, when somebody told me about, I just learned about STN and GPI literally a year or two ago, because we had a couple on. They both have Parkinson's, and they both had DBS done on the same day with the same surgeon, but one had GPI and one had STN. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, what did you have done? He's like, I don't know. Like,
whatever they told me.
So that helped us start to get asked that question, and then, get to know more about it. But then, talking about the size of things and the health of things and what it does to your brain wiring. And we always talk about rewiring our brain, retraining our brain. But then you think well, if my DBS was this way, then your DBS should be that way, but it's not, because your brain is rewired.
Yeah, and I wouldn't discourage someone who's older from going through the process if they're a candidate. I would just, for those people who are younger and thinking about it and trying to put it off because they think they're not bad enough yet, I would really rethink that.
Yeah, why wait to live your best life?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
There is some quality of life and time with that quality of life that you're obviously, the most obvious thing that happens if you wait is that is going to be deferred, and you won't get it back because time passes. And as long as we know with your symptoms that you have a good chance of having a meaningful benefit that's over and above what medications are doing for you at that time because things have gotten more difficult, then it makes even more sense. And for people that are very, very early where they're not struggling at all with their Parkinson's, maybe they can wait. But everybody's going to be different there. And I think people that are younger and are active and have jobs and family, the equation's completely different because what you need to perform well is very different than somebody that's a lot older and is retired and is not necessarily active. The differences are, the threshold for something like this is very different for those different groups of people.
And one thing that I've kind of taken away from the podcast and some of the stuff we've done research on is it's just like medication. It has to be adjusted. It's not a one-shot deal.
It's not a turn it on one day and you're fine.
Yeah,
It's not a light switch.
Yeah. Which is definitely, that is a really good point and something that I wanted to point out as well, because I mean, I'm even noticing it now, and I feel like I hear from other people of, you have to give it time. Like how I'm feeling with the adaptive DBS programming now, I think it was probably different than when it was first turned on, because it's like your body's just getting used to being in that state. So like when I jumped up to make changes, and I remember sitting in your office and the Medtronic rep was there, and he's like, honestly, even just going up a point, what's it called? Like when it's like 1.2, what's the 0.2?
1/10 of an amp.
Yeah, something like that. An amp. Okay.
Milliamp,
So
yeah.
he's like, even if you just go up one, he's like, you'd be shocked at like, you may have missed the sweet spot if you go past it, thinking like, oh, higher is better. And he's like, which is what I did.
No comment.
I asked the Boston Scientific Group, I'm like, is this like a race to see you get to 12 first, or what? Is there Steve and I racing? And she's like, no. I was like, okay.
So I have a question. So when I was watching my video, because Cleveland Clinic, we had it videotaped for the podcast, and I heard you say when you were doing the hand test stuff with me, and you said something like, okay, 4 whatever is like you don't feel anything, or like the tremor was gone and like the rigidity was gone. Does that mean like, is that the same 4 of like
the UPRS?
The amp?
No.
Oh. That's the
most likely it was the score for the UPDRS score. For 0 is no symptoms and 4 being high.
Is that the Parkinson's thing? The Parkinson scale?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. How high does that go?
Each item goes up to 4, but the total score is over 100.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, so I'm like, well, maybe I need to get to 4.0. So I wanted to kind of talk about what we do during our programming. So Brian was saying, I think before we started shooting, unless it was on camera, I can't remember, is that was one of the hardest parts, is you're waiting for the programming session.
So excited.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm not on yet. Turn me on. So then the day that you go for programming, it is tiring because there's a lot that we do. So can we talk about what that day is like?
Sure.
Like starting from like when I came in on no meds, right?
Yeah, you came in on no meds, and that's always really hard to see because people don't feel their greatest, but we have to do it that way because if you took your medication, then we're not really able to see what benefit that we might get, and it also might take us to a side effect a little bit quicker, and it just kind of changes things, the whole dynamic of it.
And so one of the things that you told me is like it's important for me to say what I'm feeling, but you can also see kind of what I'm feeling, right?
There's 2 things. So one, in regards to what you're feeling. So some of that is in regard to side effect, because we want to know kind of what our limits are, what our window is going to be in regards to the stimulation. Although sometimes that changes a little bit over time, but in general. So like I would say, just tell me whatever you feel, no matter what it is, whether you think it could be related or not. And you said you were feeling hot at times, and you got dizzy at times. And sometimes we really couldn't push past that. And so I just kind of let it go. You were also getting benefit really early. So then that's the other part, is because a lot of times to your point earlier, people can't always see what you're feeling. Sometimes, yes, with dyskinesia, with a little bit of tremor, but your main problem has always been that tightness. And we can't always see it. And sometimes I couldn't even like feel it as much as you were feeling it.
But then
right?
you saw it basically on the screen.
But then we would see on the screen as like, well, we would see the signals get better. And then, you know, asking you what you would feel, then you're like, oh, I'm feeling less stiff. And so I wanted to know what you were feeling from a side effect standpoint, but then also if you're going to start feeling things that I can't see that are your, you know, like you'd be like, oh, I'm so much more relaxed. This feels so much better. And you always knew, like, even without telling you, the second I turned it off to test out the next contact on the electrode, you're like, oh, this feels awful. I'm getting really stiff again. I mean, it was very textbook, which we don't see a lot of textbook. Like people with Parkinson's don't read the textbook, right? But yours was very...
But do you think that's because, one, I feel like, you know, I mean, I even go to like his doctor's appointments and I'm outspoken there. Like, is it because I say everything that I'm feeling, or is it like, because I know I was talking to one of the ladies that I work out with and I was telling her about, like, we both have Medtronic and we're looking at our thingy. What's it called? The
communication programmer.
The programmer. And she's like, oh no, she's like, I didn't even turn mine on. I'm like, what? I've been playing with mine all, I know, sorry. But I was like, I was playing with it all day. But anyways, I know I shouldn't, so don't do that. But she, you know, she was very hesitant. She's like, I'm not good with technology. I just don't even want to like touch it. So is it also, does that have anything to do with it? Like, because I don't know if everybody even thinks about what is a symptom or what they're feeling of how to explain it in that conversation with you. So the fact that you say I was textbook, but I was also like, I'm very vocal.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. So very textbook in regards to like, you would get benefit and then a little bit later you would get the side effect. And it just, as soon as I turned it off, it was like your symptoms came back and then it, you know, it was just nice. Yeah. It was really nice. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that's probably usually a combination of you responding very well to DBS, but also that you can feel it and you can communicate what you're feeling very well. And sometimes we have part of that and not the other part. So your ability to communicate accurately what you're feeling and what you're feeling is accurately representing what's happening is very, very, very helpful. And that you responded really well. Which is
it was very nice.
Hey, great signals.
And we, you know, and I think we talked about this the last time I was here. Like, I don't want or expect people to use the terminology that we use. I don't need them to say bradykinesia, dyskinesia. You know, I just want to know what you feel in your own words. Yeah. One, so that we're on the same page, and you say bradykinesia and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I need to go up on the stimulator, and like if we're talking on the phone or something, and actually it was dyskinesia. Yeah. Because that happens. And actually I think we talked about a situation today where that happened and they did all these changes because the terminology was wrong. Yeah. So I think that's really good because like we try and use the terminology because that's what we're trained. I guess we're almost like trained or whatever, but it's like, what else do you call it? You know, but you just say what you feel. And that's what it was helpful because I remember you asked, you're like, I'm like, I don't know if it's dyskinesia or if it's dystonia, but like this, you're like, just tell me what is your foot doing? And I was like, it's just doing this and I can't get it to stop or whatever. And then we got to what it was. Yeah. I think, I don't think it's necessary to use the terminology and just really saying exactly what you feel. And I love that you would, you know, you said, oh, maybe I'm, you know, outspoken or I say too much, but it was perfect because the thing is, even if it is not related to the DBS, that's my job to figure out whether it is or not. I can't always tell, but sometimes I'll sit here and I'll go back down and I'll be like, okay, what are you feeling? And we can sometimes tease out. Sometimes we can't, but a lot of the times I can tease out whether what you're feeling is related or is not related. Well, that's why I didn't bring up the getting really hot right at first, because you're like, you know, some people might, like their face might make a certain movement or their arm does, or they might slur their words. And I'm like sitting there. I was actually, what Dr. Ramos said, like, how can we ease people's, you know, their first surgery? It's like, it was actually, I was more nervous for that first programming when we were sitting there and you're saying like, all these different things might happen. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, my husband's right there. So I'm like, okay, if I like fall out of the chair, because I think that has happened to some people, but it's very quick and you change it. But mine, I never even thought to tell you
and even though you told me, tell you everything, but I'm like, I got really hot. And I'm like, but it was a warm day and it's whatever. And then as soon as it turned off and I felt better, I'm like, okay, that was totally, I need to say that.
Yeah.
So are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a part of your body that tells you, hey, like for me, it's like my toes. Like as soon as my toes start to cramp up or start to feel like they're glued, that tells me I need to probably a little bit of a
Kicker.
1/10 of a click up.
Mine was more around the stiffness. So like my stiffness is like, I don't want to say completely gone, but I feel like it's completely gone. And now I'm just dealing with tremor, which I'm like, for me, my tremor was never bad. So I'm like, I will deal with this tremor all day long over the stiffness. But so if I ever get that stiffness back, that's when I know. And if I get any dyskinesia, that's when I also know, like,
Right.
which I haven't had like that arm twisting. I do get the foot twisting a little bit, but that's why I went down on the Crexont from 3 pills just down to 2. But yeah, so during that first session, you did like a few different things, and then you set it to an actual program, right?
Yes.
And then, but we didn't turn the adaptive on then,
Correct.
which I was not happy with.
I know. I know you were.
But why did you do that? It was good reason.
Why we don't do the adaptive right away? Because we need to. The adaptive only works well when you've actually found the right settings. And so if I turn it on at the very beginning, then that like takes away from like the tweaking. Yes, we'll end up tweaking like the thresholds and stuff like that. But I didn't even know how you were going to do yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to do really well with the settings. In the office, it seemed like you would, and then the other thing too is, and this kind of goes back to, just in general, a lot of times, and everybody is different, but a lot of times the way a lot of us do it is we don't have you make any changes for a little while is because the longer it's on, sometimes more and more benefit comes. Because you even said,
right.
like, I was so tired that day and, just everything. So there's so much going on that day. You've been off meds a long time. It's tiring. And so you're not really getting the full benefit.
Right.
And also like the bradykinesia, the slowness, it doesn't respond right away. In some people it does, but in a lot of people it doesn't. It might take, several days to a week or so. And so if you don't do anything, then sometimes, when the person comes back in 2 weeks, they are so much better than they were the day they left in the office without making any changes. And you always, similar to medication, you always want to be on the least amount of stimulation to give you the benefit and the quality of life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I like to practice with medication, and the same with this. With that said, the tremor can be worked on. But, so that's why we typically do that.
And so just to explain the adaptive, because do you know a lot about the adaptive or no?
Just from what you've told me.
But like, what would be your explanation of it? Because I just need to understand maybe where other people are.
It's kind of, it fixes you automatically.
Okay.
So basically, it's
Good
making
start.
changes to your system, right?
Yeah.
Based on the brain waves or.
So what I wanted to do is explain it from my standpoint, and then you can tell me if I'm on the right path or not, only so that, not that you guys don't speak in plain language, because you guys do a really nice job of that, so thank you, but just from like my dumb words to use. So I didn't understand why we didn't go right to adaptive until the next time that came in, and then we did go to adaptive only because you felt comfortable with where I was and how, like, different responses that I gave and whatnot. But I know that it can still take time for others. Might take other programming sessions. But turning the adaptive on, you were able to see, like, obviously, and women especially, it's like you're not the same. Which we need to talk about that too.
Okay.
Sorry, just remind me, women.
Okay.
We're not the same. You're not the same all day long, and we know that. I mean, we see the fluctuation because of the medication.
You live it, right?
You live it, but it's like, and every day is different. With what you're going to be feeling, and what the adaptive does is it gave us a window, and you're able to make the window whatever you expect it to be. So like my one side is, I don't even remember now, like 0.8 to 1.2, and my other side is like, I don't know, 0.6 to 1.0, whatever. But so it can fluctuate based on how I'm feeling. And I don't know if this is true for everybody or if it's because adaptive is still new and you were working with the engineers at Medtronic, but they were on the phone. And I guess this was really interesting because I came in and I said, I'm like, sometimes the dyskinesia, I don't feel things kick in like right away. Like I know almost when it's kicking in. I feel like it was taking time. So what was happening is when the stimulation needed to go up, it was like a 5-minute window or lag for it to get there. And so the engineer changed the program to be 1 minute. Mm-hmm. So if it knew, like, because I would just change so quickly. And then also coming down, because if I was getting dyskinetic, the adaptive device would sense that, but it was taking like a couple minutes to go down. So now he changed it to be 1 minute, 1 minute down, 1 minute up, 1 minute down. I thought that was really cool. And I totally noticed a difference after that. So it's just really incredible what like this technology is able to do. But I tell so many people, I was like, you're only as good, honestly, as one, how the leads are set in, but then also how your programmer is and how you're able to explain what you're feeling. So I don't know, is that adaptive?
Yeah, I think
my perspective,
I think you have it right. As Ellen said, I think an important point, and why we don't typically do it right now, right at the beginning, is you have a lot of places, for one, along that wire where you can stimulate. Mm-hmm. And adaptive is going to go up and down on the amplitude of the settings, how big of an effect it has at that one point that it's stimulating from. But we need to have the right spot first.
Yeah.
So, looking through your response along the wire and finding out where that sweet spot is critically important. And if we skip that, then we're adapting up and down, but we're not at the right spot. And it might work kind of, but it's not going to work as well as it would if that's really been figured out first. And medications and everything else is going to interact with how you're doing. So really sorting out, getting the meds to a reasonable place, and finding that right spot. And then we can put it into adaptive and start sensing how you're doing and figure out the parameters for it. And it sounds like what they chose was actually to make it move a little bit faster, which is not a typical setting. It's not the standard kind of default setting, but that's another parameter that can be changed.
Right.
There's a lot of things that you can change. So doing kind of one thing at a time simplifies it a lot, makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
So
it's fairly easy if you go slow.
So with the adaptive, are they only changing the amplitude, or are they changing where those things, where the leads, or not the leads, but the
Like the contacts?
the contacts?
Just the amplitude.
Just the amplitude at this
So-
point in time.
Okay. Yeah. So
That goes to your other question.
yeah,
Go
that
ahead.
goes to my other question. Then it's because I had assumed it would change what it's actually contacted with too. But
Yeah.
okay, good to know.
It's a very good thought, and I think right on as far as like probably where we need to go with the
Right.
field. When you deploy a technology like this, they have to start simple
Yeah.
and prove that it works, and then you can add
Oh, yeah,
layers
'cause
of
it can
other
be
things
scary.
into that. So that that would make it a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was talking to, or maybe it was my own research I was doing with Medtronic, and this could be the same for Abbott and Boston Scientific, but are they typically, when they're building the batteries, are they building them out for like, I know Adaptive was already on this one that I had friends get like 2 years ago, and they were able to turn the Adaptive on because it was now approved. So are there other things built in, and not that we have to know what they are, but is it prepped for potential improvements, or do we always have to get our battery changed with that?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Probably you don't need to get them changed.
Okay.
It depends on how much the engineers have thought into the future. But I think in general, to the extent they can, they are. And a lot of things can change with software.
Does Boston Scientific have Adaptive now?
It does not.
They do not. But they have some other technology that is built in that is not turned on in everybody.
Okay. So one of the important things that I brought back to this guy, not to say that you have to change anything, but I thought it was really important to hear from you the importance of staying on some sort of carbidopa levodopa to get dopamine in my body. And can you
Yeah.
explain that? Like, so, because I know he always touts and is excited that I'm not on any meds. And there's a lot of people who do say that.
Yeah.
And I'm on less meds.
Right.
But why is keeping dopamine important?
Well, and Ben will probably say it in a much more eloquent, like, scientific
Let's give it to us
way.
real.
But for me, and like what, we talked about, I mean, the dopamine is not just about movement. It's also about, your mood and the way you think. I mean, I would never treat a memory cognitive problem with dopamine. However, if you don't have that dopamine, you might not think as clearly. You might not communicate your thoughts as clearly. The DBS is not going to do that for you, but dopamine will. Dopamine can, so you just don't. And I know you're going to explain it like more eloquently, but I just think it's important for a lot of things.
Yeah,
but especially
the DBS
mood
is tapping into part of the circuitry in the brain that really is involved in movement. But again, in a very similar way, some of these things are also affected by dopamine, and you need that dopamine in other parts of the brain. So, like she said, having some levels of dopamine from the medication usually is beneficial in people with Parkinson's.
I'm talking to my neurologist about it.
Because I honestly, I feel like I could be a spokesperson for Crexon for how many people I've told about how great it's working, but it's really working for a lot of people in my young onset group. But even just making that switch has just been helpful. And I feel I just feel pretty even all day long, which is pretty amazing. The other thing that I wanted to ask, you guys can chime in if you want to, especially you, since you're a doctor, you can stay quiet. Women, is there a difference with when women are on their period and how they feel? I mean, I know it is in terms of their symptoms, but can I get a different DBS program just for that week? Because I felt like I was really off. Or symptoms were worse.
That is really interesting because a lot of women during there's different hormonal changes, periods, things like that, their symptoms are much worse. Not everybody feels that, but a lot of people definitely do. And so that's interesting because it sounds like what you're asking for is to have another one where maybe the settings are a little bit higher and adapting around that.
Because I'm coming off of that, and I feel like that's when I was my foot was really dyskinetic, and I noticed it, especially when I'm driving, because it's been so much better driving. So now I don't have the stiffness, which is great. That was the part that was not good with moving from the pedal, but it was just the constant movement of my ankle going like this, and there was I think feel more tremor and stuff like that. But it was definitely noticeable to the point where I checked my battery twice last week because I was like, is it charged? Did something fail? Is something not working? Because it just didn't feel right.
You were still better, but not quite as good.
Right.
Yeah.
So I might need another program.
Yeah, a menstrual program.
Oh, well, we can edit them and put names in, so we can do that for you.
Good. I love that. So what, I know you and I talked a lot about, and this is something that Brian and I talk about constantly, is setting expectations. And I know that the reason why I didn't move forward right away, and you kept pushing me, which I'm glad you did, but I didn't move forward right away is because the 1% or 0.5% or something you said that it could affect speech, and it could affect a bunch of things within the body. And you're just I just have to give you this example or just, say this, which was great. But that's when I was oh my gosh, am I really ready for something like that to happen? But then after how dyskinetic I was on vacation and all these other things, and I'm okay, but all this stuff is happening too.
Right.
So it's it's the what if scenario of Parkinson's in general. So it's okay, well, what if that happens? It's something's going to happen. So let me try to do something for the better. What's the best way for people to feel about that, or how? Because the percentage wise, I think is really good.
And
the success rate.
I don't ever quote specific success or percentages, and I know there is some data on that. I don't, but we do talk about all the potential things that can happen. But one, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Two, a lot of times people, if we do get in that situation where we have to make we let the patients make a choice. Some people would rather have no tremor and have their speech sound like a little thicker or a little stuttery or something. And they're completely fine because they're like, oh my God, I'm using my hand for the first time in 15 years, so they don't care. Other people, they say, I don't care if I have that much, if I have some tremor, I want to be able to talk clearly. And so for everybody, it's a difference. I mean, there's a lot of situations where we don't have to make those choices, but every once in a while, especially more so in essential tremor than Parkinson's in regards to speech, does that choice come up? But a lot of times, to your point, like you were like, oh, that scares me because talking is your life, right? Look at, we're sitting here. But at the same time, then you started to think about all those other things that, gosh, if this got, if these all got better. So I think it's a lot of times it's about weighing what's important to a specific person. I think that wants to add to
and
that.
I think for sure Parkinson's, of course, can affect your speech significantly as well. And as she said, when we're picking the parameters, you have lower settings where you get benefit, and at some point as you go up, we'll start to see side effects. We expect to see that. We want to see those side effects at high levels and not at low levels. But the benefit might continue to go up too as you go up. And so a lot of that is under the control of the person doing the programming and also of the patient, and making some choices as far as where you go. And, a lot of times, we can get things perfect, without going up into those higher ranges and getting side effects. Some people will sometimes want the additional benefit they're getting at a higher setting, and it's a trade-off. And then other times we can change which way it's pushing or a different direction and get the benefit without any side effect and without going in that direction. And that is our goal. But there's often a choice in there. And in patients that are more advanced, they might be going up on their settings or asking for settings to go higher. And we have to, look at that and also recognize it. I think one of the challenges, and this is where having expert programmers that are really experienced in this, to recognize subtle changes in speech. My biggest fear is probably if patients are out there where the programmers are going up very slowly and not recognizing it, and particularly if you're going slowly, you're not going to see it as easily. And then we get into it where we're getting some side effects and looking back that they're there. Then you can always go back and change things. But it is something to balance out.
Do you ever have anybody take it, like have it removed? Because it's revert. I mean, I don't know if reversible is the right word, but it's like it's not.
So rarely.
Permanent.
So sometimes it's removed, due to infection. I do believe there was a situation. It was not my patient, but I do believe there was a situation where somebody there was a problem that they attributed to the DBS. I'm not sure if it really was attributed to it, and they actually, my understanding is, got really good benefit. But there was just something specific that, like, it was like a headache or something like that.
Yeah, I think I read, that's what I had read that someplace, that somebody had it removed because they had, like, almost like, as soon as they got it installed, like migraines or something like that.
I think, we did have one situation like that. But it's really rare because usually people get at least some, and in that situation, I'm pretty sure they had good benefit, but they just, they had a headache. But, it doesn't always, going back to expectations, it doesn't always look like you or you. That's not always the case. But usually people have enough benefit that they still don't want to. Because sometimes if I'm trying to, to Ben's point, like, you don't have to have DBS to have speech problems. I mean, we have people who, sometimes we can barely understand and they don't have DBS, right? But sometimes if we're trying to, like, tease something out, I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to have you turn off your DBS for like a day just to try to figure out. They're like, I'm not turning off my DBS, and even if it's somebody who doesn't feel like it gives them benefit, but maybe not as much as like you might see or something like that. I don't think I've ever had somebody that was really willing to turn off their DBS once they've had it.
I turned it off just the other day because I was going to do something for a video. And I was like, I do just like to every once in a while to not remember, but just to feel it again. And I was like, I was so nervous. I'm like, I really don't want to do this because what happens if I turn it back on and something doesn't work and I don't have it? Like, I was like freaking out because it's like you feel so amazing. So what other, you mentioned essential tremors is another area that people or group that can use DBS. What other
So dystonia is another one, smaller group than essential tremor or Parkinson's. But dystonia is different. And when I say dystonia, I mean a condition called dystonia, not just having dystonia as a symptom of, say, Parkinson's, which happens too. But children get dystonia. So children as young as 7 sometimes may have DBS for dystonia. If they have generalized dystonia, it's often hereditary and very difficult, very disabling. And DBS works really well to allow these children that are twisted and contorted to mostly live a very normal life.
Wow.
So it has a huge
actually very
impact.
cool to
It's
see.
one of the other amazing things about DBS.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new OCD is another area that it's approved for, and epilepsy it's approved for. Dr. Amo is involved in epilepsy surgery for with DBS, and there's a lot of areas that it's being explored in. Research-wise, people have looked at Tourette's. There's clinical experience with that, and then a whole bunch of areas that are much more experimental, including depression and stroke modulation and recovery. Those are all being researched right now, and many other areas as well.
It is crazy when you think about how many, like when you guys say how many surgeries you do a week, and it's like, and that's just your facility. So it's like, how many people are out there?
Having this done all over the world,
getting this.
yes.
So, what does the future of DBS look like?
Well, it's a high-tech area, and it's constantly evolving. I think a lot of it is in the software, which is great, because that means people that have existing platforms will benefit from a lot of the innovation. Even, I think you had alluded to, the sensing was built into the Medtronic systems long before adaptive was approved, but that was with the foresight that that's where it would go, and it was really smart for them to do that. But there are other things like that, and other things that haven't been thought of as far as being able to adapt in different ways. We're just scratching the surface with that. Image-guided programming, using artificial intelligence or at least machine learning or different algorithms to help make our work a little bit easier and get people to better benefit faster, I think is a big part of it as well. Integrating other kinds of signals that may help. We have adaptive coming from signals from the brain. There might be other ways to do that in the future as well.
Okay, cool.
It's amazing when you think about where it's, how far it's come. When we think about back in the day when we both started, there wasn't a controller. So if you lived 2 hours away and you had a situation like that with the dyskinesia going like this, it's like, turn right back around and, go back to the Cleveland Clinic.
The blue magnet.
The magnet. Oh, yes. Yeah, there was a magnet to turn it on and off. And then to know if the battery was dead and needed replaced, they used an AM radio to tell. Kid you not, that's when we first started DBS. Like, that's how it was. So you think of that and the AM, like somebody didn't believe me, and then I found it in a journal article, and I'm like, see? It really, that's
And
what
that
it was
also
like. There was a
doesn't
big
work anymore.
suitcase. What'd you say? That doesn't work anymore?
Because of the way the wires are made, they're very good at isolating that electrical signal, and you can't detect it with an AM radio anymore.
But back in the day, you could. And like people would be affected by large magnets. And so if they leaned against the refrigerator, they could get, because that's one of the largest magnets in the house, so they could get turned off. We had a patient that he kept getting turned on and off, and he'd get to work and he just felt awful, and he'd come back home and he felt better. It was the dog, the invisible dog thing.
Brian did that to me. Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
He just had DBS.
I just had DBS, and they'd invited me over for something.
I think it was your birthday or something.
Yeah, something like that. And they got a new dog, so they just had the invisible fence put on. And I went,
He walks in the door and he goes,
Jessica, you could have told me you got that invisible fence. It shocked me. And she's like, oh my God. And she starts freaking out. I just died laughing.
I mean, my kids were like, he was like, yeah, he's like, I walked in, he's like, I didn't know you had your invisible fence on, and I went like this, and I'm like, no, you didn't. And he's like, no, I'm just kidding. I'm like, oh my, I literally almost had a heart attack. So that would actually happen.
That was a weird circumstance because it shouldn't have.
But in the older systems, that electrical interference would have a bigger impact, or magnetic fields, particularly because they had a magnetic switch.
Yeah.
which most of the systems do not have now. Picking up an old television with a cathode ray tube would do it, but we don't even have those
I was going to
anymore.
say, our kids wouldn't even know what that looked
Walking
like.
in and out, like a library with the metal detectors, or like, Walmart, the theft detectors.
Yeah.
Turn on and off going into stores. So.
Well, I'm glad all you manufacturers updated that software. Well, thank you guys so much for coming down. This is a 3-part segment. So hopefully if you're tuning in, you've tuned into all 3, one with Dr. Ramo, one with Dr. Ramo and Dr. Walter, and now this final 3rd one with Ellen, who does my programming, and then obviously Dr. Walter. Who's
Somehow I got
MDS.
lucky.
I know.
Get to be in all 3.
Yeah, you and you guys were both reoccurring guest speakers. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us. This is fun.
Well, this is a huge help too for like everybody in the community, because we've gotten so many questions, and we only know what we know. So hearing from you guys, hearing from the experts, and asking I had a whole list of questions, and I think we got through all of them. So what I would like to say though at the end of this, I'll have a last 30 seconds for this one. But if you do have any questions for any 3 of them, right? So Dr. Ramo, Dr. Walter, Ellen Walter, if you guys can send us a comment, you can send me an email at jessica@thesecretlifeofpd.org. I think Steve leaves that up for everybody to see, or just again, leave a comment with a question if you have one, and maybe we'll have them back on, or we can phone a friend and we can just get the answers for you and share it. So, but in our last 30 seconds, I'll leave you with this. Whether or not DBS is right for you, definitely always consult with your doctor, your neurologist, movement disorder specialist, hopefully specifically that you have. But do your research. There is plenty of research. There's plenty of videos. We'll have our own out there as well. It might not be for everybody, but for those of you that it is good for, just again, do your research, ask the questions, and that's it. With that, we'll see you next time.